We will act more than talk. We'll try to find solutions coming from everywhere. The government will not pretend to have a superior knowledge. I have learned in my long public life that good ideas come from everywhere, often from the bottom, the most humble of people, when you take the time to listen to them.
OK, at this point, let's bring in Bloomberg's Connan, standing by for us in Paris, covering all things French politics for us, of course. And, Caroline, I know you and the team have been waiting for this moment on tenterhooks. And finally, we have an answer. Why has Macron, though, chosen Michel Barnier?
Tom, that's really the only name that Emmanuel Macron came up with that he believes will not face a vote of no confidence. And the reason for that is that the National Rally have said that they will not vote a vote of no confidence and make this government collapse. So at least he could stay a little bit. As you know, he's a very well-known international figure, especially for you in the UK. He was in charge for the EU of the Brexit negotiations for 4 years and was considered very tough, very patient during those negotiations, especially when you had lots of divergence on trade, on fishing, on the period of transition, first with Theresa May, then with Boris Johnson. Before that, he was also EU Commissioner for Internal Markets, so he's very well-known at the EU level, quite a reassuring figure for Brussels. Last time I interviewed him in Aix-en-Provence back in July, in the middle of those chaos, snap elections, he actually refused to say he could be a solution as a prime minister, but said his red line was any threat to the European project. In France, of course, he's been around for a very long time as well. He was first elected MP in 1978. He was European Minister, Foreign Affairs Minister, Agriculture Minister. He didn't even try to run for the 2022 presidential elections, but lost in the Republican primaries. Of course, the left wing today is feeling outraged. The far-left leader, Jean-Luc Mélenchon, has said the election was stolen. The socialists said this was a denial of democracy. We'll see over the weekend if there are some protests that could possibly damage the credibility of the new Prime Minister, Michel Barnier.
OK, so the response then from the far left. Look, this is clearly one important piece of this puzzle, the anointment, or at least the appointment of Michel Barnier. What is next, though, to build out this puzzle that is the new French government and its policy agenda, Caroline?
You saw already the handover between Gabriel Attal, the youngest Prime Minister of the Fifth Republic, and Michel Barnier, the oldest, 73 years old, last night on these pictures. Over the next few days, he's going to have to form a government. That's going to be tough because he's probably going to take some personality from the center, but also has to extend a hand to perhaps the center-left and the center-right, as we've been discussing over the past couple of months. If he doesn't want to see his government collapse immediately, then he's going to do a general speech in Parliament. That's when he could potentially face a vote of no confidence. And then there will only be a few weeks before he has to present a budget. The deadline is October 1st. As you know, France has been placed under an excessive deficit procedure by the EU Commission. Last night, Michel Barnier talked about telling the truth to the French about the budget. We already know that the deficit slipped to 5.5% last year, much higher than the target. And it's actually expected to rise even more this year, up to 5.6%, because already Bruno Le Maire, the previous finance minister, has warned about potentially too much spending from local collectivities, as much as 60 billion euros to find. And some analysts have told us over the past few days, right here on Bloomberg TV, that in fact, France could need even more austerity, perhaps as much as 0.3, 0.5% of new austerity in the new budget. That would be around the equivalent of the savings from the pension reform.